we are back at Games Point Blank. I'm the Don, and we got here Crowd Pleasa and Desert Eagle. We're back in business, and we're going to talk about Sony's first-party exclusives or lack thereof for 2023, and if it really matters or not. We're going to talk about the games point blank. All right, so the year 2023 so far, Sony has not really had any first-party exclusives at all released for PS5 or PS4. And it has led to a lot of speculation online and complaints that Sony has not had any first-party releases, even though Microsoft has. Whether or not their quality has been up to snuff is a different story, but they have had first-party releases. Now, what do you guys think has been going on with Sony, and if this really matters or not as far as their release cadence for 2023?
What this news tells me is that Sony has released all their games that we all know started development on PS4. They just started making their PS5 exclusives from the ground up, and they're not ready. They probably started making them 2 years ago, and they're probably going to come out the end of next year, more towards the end of the gen cycle.
I mean, Desert Eagle, you say that. However, I'm going to throw out as a counter argument the fact that we had at the launch of PS5, Demon's Souls remake, which was a remake of a PS3 game that didn't really need a lot of work. They weren't designing a game from scratch or anything like that. We had Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart come out that was exclusive to PS5, and Returnal, which was also exclusive to PS5. Like, those are both next-gen games. Whether or not they could have ran on older gens is up for debate. There was no way Returnal was going to run on last-gen systems. If you play that game, you'll see why. They have released exclusive games for PS5. Everything after those 2 games, or 3 games, was cross-gen, but they did have exclusives.
The Don, I don't think it matters if Sony sells another first-party game this year outside of Spider-Man 2. They are completely dominating Xbox in terms of consoles sold. People want PlayStation 5s, people do not want Xboxes, and they are still a ton of first-party games to play. The fact of the matter is, Xbox is having a lot of issues with their public image right now and making gamers happy. It seems that no matter what they're doing, they cannot do any positive, and every slight mishap or bad move results in horrible press. It's to the point that Sony doesn't even need to do anything and just let Microsoft mess up their own agenda.
There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. It's not going to happen.
And just stand back and say nothing, and people are still going to go buy this system. So why would anyone say that a new game is needed? Sony they're selling consoles and shipping consoles in these record numbers, and they don't even have a single game this year announced outside of Spider-Man. Explain that to me.
I mean, the simple explanation is they're doing what Microsoft refuses to do, and that is make third-party deals. Like, at the end of the day, Forspoken, regardless of the quality of it, that was an exclusive game that you could only play on a Sony PlayStation 5 or a PC. So that's a game that's going to be exclusive. It's going to, whether or not people wanted it or not, and clearly it didn't sell that well, but it was still something to drive people to the platform. What's coming out now? Now you got, after all this Redfall drama, Redfall was supposed to be the next Microsoft game. And what do they have in the same time frame for Sony? You got Final Fantasy 16. Can you play Final Fantasy 16 on an Xbox? No. Can you play it on a PC? No. So what are you going to do? If you want to play that game, which looks great, I have some reservations about it, but it still looks good. You have to get a PS5. And now they just announced this bundle for PS5 with that game. So come on. They don't need first party. When you got these deals in place, you still got games that are only available on your ecosystem.
Don, I just have one counterpoint to make. You say Microsoft is not making these third-party deals. It's not that they're not making them. It's that Sony is preventing them from making them. It's already come out that Sony is making deals with the third-party companies to exclude the games from Xbox. Xbox doesn't even have a chance, because Sony's telling these companies, if you want this game on PlayStation, you can never release it on Xbox. Sony's not playing fair. If Microsoft could make the deals with third party for these games, they would.
I disagree. I think they could make the deals. they refuse to make the deals. Like Phil Spencer said, he doesn't like third-party deals. But to say that they can't, what does the $1 Million Man say? Everybody's got a price.
Going all the way back to Xbox 360, Microsoft was the king of third-party deals. They dominated that generation, at least in terms of public perception, because of the fact that they had all the games, all the exclusive DLC, and everything in between. Although the PS3, towards the end of that generation, caught up in terms of sales, everyone knew Xbox was the cool system to have. Everyone knew that was the system that everyone talked about, everyone played their games on, everyone played Call of Duty on. So it didn't matter. Fast forward to this generation, and sure, Sony's saying, yeah, don't put your games out on Xbox Series X for whatever reason. We want our systems to have these IPs exclusive. That's great. But the fact of the matter is, does it matter if they're selling anyway? Do these companies like Square care that their games aren't coming out on a system that their own purchasers aren't even happy about? Game Pass is a whole different topic, and I'm sure everyone is happy about that, but that's not a consumer problem, and that's not the other company's problem. Hey, if I was the other companies and this system was selling crazy, selling 40 million, whatever, how many millions of consoles this system has, it doesn't even matter to me that I'm not going to the competition with less than half of those numbers. I'm going to get my money regardless. So what is the point outside of, once again, public perception, which is already negative? How about Microsoft start worrying about getting their own games in order, and then the companies will want to start coming to them?
Yeah, but these deals with Sony still matter, because what do these deals do? They keep them off Game Pass. They keep the games off Game Pass. They keep the games off Xbox. If they don't make these deals, regardless of the fact of whether they need them or not, Microsoft will make a deal to put it on Game Pass, and that's going to enhance their ecosystem. Sony does not want that. Clearly, they spent the last year and a half botching this Activision deal, making sure they're not getting the top tier content from third parties, mostly from Square. And then it looks like blocking the top tier content from Square, like this Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster and the 5 games that Square released between September and January of this past year. And that's what they're doing. They're making the Sony ecosystem the place to go for a specific type of game, mostly Japanese games, and that's helping them. That's probably part of the reason why they're selling so many. Because if you want that type of game, where are you going to go?
It makes good business sense to try and attempt to block these games from popping up on Game Pass. Because let's be honest, Sony can't compete with Game Pass directly, even with their game library service. So if let's play fair then. Go ahead, Microsoft, put all your games on Game Pass, start paying all of these third-party developers to launch day one on your platform. Sony's gonna go bankrupt. Sony's gonna lose, because no one is gonna pay $70 to play these games on their system when they can just go $15 a month and play every good third-party game day one. It just doesn't make business sense. So for me, I think that's great. I think that's a good, smart business move. Is it good for the gaming public? Sure, I can see that it's not. But as a business, as Sony wanting to stay on top, I don't see how they're wrong in this situation.
All right, so that's how we feel about Sony's current status with first-party releases in 2023. Let us know in the comments below what you think, if you agree, disagree, counterpoints, topics that we may not have discussed in this video. Please remember to click the like button and subscribe, and until next time, let's game on.
If you liked our content, mash that like button, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more content, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.